You'll be listening to an NPR radio segment titled Talking About Women's Issues in Gaming Still Taboo, developer says. This was aired August the 23rd, 2015. This will be the first time that I will be listening to this, and I will be adding my own personal commentary to it. Depending on where I see fit, I might pause it if I hear anything outrageous being said that might require my immediate feedback, or I might simply wait till the end of this whole segment. So let's just jump right in and start listening.
Conversations around Gamergate online have highlighted rampant and violent misogyny and harassment in video game culture, not just in the games themselves, but in the people who make them and buy them. The online firestorm has simmered down, but many women in the industry say it's still hard to speak up about these issues.
I'm Laralyn McWilliams, and I started in game development in the mid-90s. I've worked in a lot of different roles, but primarily in design.
McWilliams has worked as lead designer on games like Full Spectrum Warrior. Now she's the chief creative officer at The Workshop, a game studio based in LA. She says she hasn't experienced much overt sexism in her career, just more of what she calls casual exclusion.
For most of my career, it was things like having meetings with the publisher when the publisher came in from out of town at strip clubs. Most of the time, I just wasn't invited, even though I was in a leadership role. Sometimes there was this awkward, do we tell her or not conversation around it. I remember once, this was just actually 5 or 6 years ago, I had been a producer before at other companies, but moving into a producer role for the first time at the company I was working for at the time. And at the first producers meeting, literally the first thing that somebody said to me was, I hope this goes better than the last time we had a woman at the producers meeting. So it's been minor for me, in comparison to what I know other women sometimes go through. Yeah. But on the other hand, I also know that there are lots of women who have gone through their entire game career, really, and not had anything overtly sexist happen to them at all.
Okay, let's just pause it right here, because there's already two things that I need to respond to, and so the only two major issues that she has brought up until now about women's issues in gaming, specifically as a female developer, is that she wasn't invited to a strip club, apparently, with other executives from with the developers in her team and the executives of a publishing company. But no, because I need to correct that, in fact, because she was invited, because she clearly said that if you re-listen to this, but she was only invited a few times. So it's not as if she was never invited to join with other developers to go to a strip club. It's interesting to note, and if she would clarify, if those developers were actually her juniors, were the younger members, because she said something about that she was in a leadership role. Because I don't know, I think even right now it would be very weird to ask your female boss to ask her to join you and the rest of the guys to go head out and visit a strip club. I think that would be maybe a reason why it's very awkward and why she wasn't asked that many times. And actually, if they asked her a few times, then I'm wondering, did she say each time no, or did she say yes a few times, and when she actually attended with them to go to a strip club, she wasn't maybe not that sociable at those functions, or they clearly saw she was not feeling comfortable at that location. So yeah, that's something to really to ponder about. But then there's this other thing that, because she said in the beginning that she started around the 90s. So when did this happen, this going to the strip clubs? Did it happen like recently, like a few years ago, or around the year 2000 or in the 90s? Because I'm guessing that it might still happen, but I don't think it's in the current climate of political correctness that you'll go visit a strip club if you have even any female coworkers in a company that you're working for. So it'd be interesting to know when this actually transpired. It's kind of vague, this incident that she has mentioned, such as the other incident. Let's get to the second point, where she said she attended a producers meeting or something I'm guessing at a video game company that she has worked for, and she received some sort of comment that something goes along the lines that they hope that this person hopes that the meeting goes better than with the last female producer that they've had a meeting with. But here's what I find interesting. That comment wasn't directed to her. That was a comment made that comment was directed to an incident that had transpired previously in the past. So the question then arises here is what happened in that meeting. So what if they said something along the lines that they hope that the meeting goes better than the other female producer? Because I have no idea what happened in that meeting. Was that the female producer very rude, or they didn't work very well, or no, they didn't achieve any specific results during that meeting? So yeah, it's a pretty saying it that they hope they have better luck with an other female producer could have been framed better. But I don't know if these are really the two most serious issues that she can bring up as working as a female developer in the video game industry. I would say those are really some minor issues, I guess, that can be really quickly worked out. I'm guessing even in today's I'm only guessing this in today's video game developing environment, that if you're working in a company that's big enough that will have their own human resource department, that this type of issues, I don't think they will even be brought up, definitely with the fear of getting sued for sexual harassment or for sexism of any type. So people are very cautious. Let's look back at that incident, for those who don't know, Donglegate, when two developers made some sort of inappropriate joke, and somebody informed on them, and they got immediately fired. And that was actually for a very minor joke. And that actually didn't happen in a video game company. That was a tech meeting, and it was and the woman actually who accused them of making a sexist, inappropriate joke, and who ensured, in fact, that they got fired, was actually she worked actually at another company. But even here she says, just before I stopped, that these so-called sexism directed at her, that was actually not even overt sexism. So that how she phrased it was very exclusionary sexism. Yeah, it's they do have a lot of these new type of buzzwords to still call you sexist while you might not actually be sexist. But she does say that she herself didn't experience that many, and she also then goes on to say that she knows a lot of female developers who haven't even experienced any overt sexism at all. So how bad is this women's issues in the video game industry, and from a female developer standpoint, if these are really the two major issues that she can bring up? And she even says that she knows a lot of people who don't face these issues that she has faced. So it's not like her butt was pinched or she was called, I know, very derogatory names directly to her face. So I'm wondering about how this is really such a major topic to have an interview over. But maybe she might say, give more insight into this, because the interview isn't. We're just another 4 minutes to go. So let's continue.
You maybe don't have the horror stories, but you did start speaking out about what other women in the industry face online. What prompted you?
Oh, okay. I quickly really need to stop here because she said what other female developers faced online, which is something completely different. This is then something not really directly in the hands of the video game company that she's working for, and this is simply an online issue. And this is not something simply just that happens to female developers. This also happens to male developers. This happens to everybody almost who is online. This is just, it sucks, but it happens to everybody, and it's not specifically targeted to women.
To do so now?
So in 2012, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer in my tonsil. And going through that experience really changes the way you look at the world, I think, for some people. It corresponded with a time when I was starting to hear women talk about the things happening to them. And after cancer, I just felt like I can't hear this and not say something.
So women are talking about this because in the headline it says it's still considered taboo to talk about women's issues. So I'm guessing it means talking about them in public, because that's weird. Because I've been archiving a lot of for the last year mainstream press, how they cover the video game industry, and it has been covered numerous times, and this goes way back already to 2008. This has been going on for the last decade, even from even since the launch of Kotaku in their early years. They had articles talking about this, but you need to use the archive.org to find these articles, because those articles are not available anymore directly from their current website. But yes, these things have been talked about, even like, for example, via TEDx or even TED, which is a type of a conference where people can speak on stage and give keynote presentations. There have been numerous of these keynote presentations talking about women's issues, and also women's issues directly related to tech, but also directly related to the video game industry. We just only have to think about Anita Sarkeesian here, right? And her TEDx presentation, and her actually continues talking about these issues and that gets covered by the mainstream press and TV, radio, and on the internet. So yes, I'm wondering really if it's really still that much of a taboo. The only thing I can guess if it's still a taboo is talking about it. If you're going to talk about any of these women's issues to your boss and or to your colleagues, maybe in that case it might considered I'm not even sure taboo, but might be frowned upon. But yeah, I have to then refer back to my earlier points that I made listening to this, which was the two major women's issues that she brought up was that exclusionary sexism, where she hardly got invited to join a strip club, and the other one where it was a comment that wasn't even really about her, but about some other female producer. So I would have much more preferred to hear much more detailed examples, because this is not the first time I'm listening to a program like this where they give these really vague insinuations of this really big, large-scale issues that women face as female developers in the video game industry. I have this other there was this other interview that was done by CBC CBC by their TV department this year even. I think it was this year. And for those who know CBC, that's the Canadian TV radio broadcasting company. I might play it by the end of this, just to give you a reference and a comparison to this from what I'm hearing right now.
Honestly, it's been out of a sense of love for what I do and knowledge that the more different people work on a game development team, the more our games and teams really grow and can create more and more interesting and dynamic games. And that's ultimately what it's all about.
Why do you think it's so hard to talk about these issues? Why is it so hard to simply have a conversation?
Patriarchy, right? I'm just joking, but let's continue on.
Within your industry?
I would say the conversation right now is almost impossible. It's considered off topic. It's considered political. It's considered, identity politics, even when you're trying to talk about something that literally just happened to you. So that makes it difficult. And then it's compounded by the fact that I think there's almost nothing you can say that's not going to make somebody feel attacked and make somebody feel angry at you. I have friends who...
No, seriously, why would that be? Why would this people conflate this to about gender issues? Because maybe it's been confidentially been brought up by the news, by the video game press, not specifically just even the video game press, by everybody, by the mainstream media, that this indiscretion gets brought up as a huge type of statement of sexism. We'll just have to point out that the low air conditioning incident controversy that's going around, that CNN is covering even right now, about how that it's too cold in the work offices spaces because of the air conditioning that's too low, and that somehow is sexism towards women because they have an issue with that. Or that manspreading, that thing that got started in the beginning of this year. Yeah, if those are the things that you are bringing up, people kind of, they get irritated, And she again says these issues, but she hasn't really given any clear example that even I would find that anybody I think would find seriously offensive or controversial.
Won't speak about it regardless of their experience, whether it's been good or bad, because of the environment right now. And I think that's
seriously. So I don't get that. What she just said. So what she said was they will not even speak about their bad experience, but they won't even speak up about their good experience in this current environment. Why wouldn't they speak up about their current about their good experiences to their colleagues online, wherever, That is such a weird statement that she just made, as if it's supposed to indicate that these female developers should not speak at all, which I doubt is the case, because I know many of them that are on Twitter and they speak very openly about multiple issues.
What we need to get past, because as long as we can't talk about it, it means we can't do anything about it.
Why is it that this industry in particular is having such a tough time finding an answer to what you've just talked about?
Tech itself is male-oriented. Software is even more male-oriented than that. And because games for many years have mostly made...
Called it patriarchy. It's the patriarchy.
Games for men. It's even more male-oriented than the rest of them. So it's sort of this condensed version of all the problems in tech. And I think that because games are one of the lower paying areas of tech, I mean, it still pays very well, but compared to non-game related jobs, because of that, I think the barriers to entry for women have just made women think it's maybe not worth the extra effort to make less, work more hours, have to move all the time, and put up with all this crap.
Yeah, Yeah, but that's not even specific to just women alone. It's not like women have to. It's only them who have to work longer hours, earn less compared to the rest of the tech industry, or move all the time. Male developers have to face these requirements, these issues also. And simply that the point that you made about moving around all the time, well, that's because one of the realities of being a video game developer, from what I've been reading these last few years, is that, yeah, they work on a project which is very labor intensive. There's this crunch time where they need to reach specific milestones on a specific date, and that would require them to work very long hours and even through the weekends. And once they complete a game, they are usually let go. They are, yeah, in fact, fired from their jobs. But because then they just move to a different company, or they move to a different, or they might even move to another project in the same company. But what I'm getting at, there's a lot of moving around, don't expect to work. It's very unusual that the video game developer would be working for the same company for, longer than a decade. They move around to different studios, different companies, or even start their own video game company. But the main point that I want to make here is that it's not just a specific issue, that women face. It's all developers face, what she just said there.
Have you thought even about what kind of reaction you might face just having done this interview?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Before I did this interview, I talked to 4 different friends to ask their opinion on whether I should do it. And, it's for a lot of reasons. Part of it's because I'm not super outgoing. It's also
So, yeah, that's really vague of the interviewer when she said what type of reactions she might face. I guess she's kind of insinuating that she's going to receive harassment. The interviewer doesn't say that, but even the interviewee, the person being interviewed, doesn't even really say what type of reactions that she's going to get. So I guess if I tweet it to her, or if there's a comment below this page about this interview, that's a reaction. So sure, how is that a bad thing? As a reaction, people have a dialogue with her, or try to inform her, or criticize her concerning what she just said. Yeah. So people have a reaction to this. Why is it so insinuated as if this is some ominous, some sort of a terrible thing?
Because there is a tendency in tech and in games in particular that if you are a woman who talks about the issues facing women in games, that becomes what defines you. You become the woman who talks about being a woman. When honestly, for most of my career, and to me, it largely continues to feel like my gender should be irrelevant. And even that's something that I wrestle with, because I realized maybe it's not that I always wanted my gender to be irrelevant, but more that I felt like the way that would make things the easiest for me is if I made my gender irrelevant.
That's Laralyn McWilliams, a 20-year veteran of the video game industry. Laralyn, thank you for talking with us, and best of luck.
Thank you very much.
All right, that was the complete interview that we've just listened to. But the thing that she said in the end about her gender to be irrelevant, why should her gender be irrelevant, just when you get hired, during the hiring process by a company, yeah, your gender should be irrelevant there, It doesn't matter what gender you are, to most of the time, in fact, depending on which type of functions, whether you're male or female, because as I said there, that there are certain cases probably you could bring up where the gender does play a role, while in fact legally it shouldn't. I'm thinking about here, for example, I guess, I don't know, if you're somebody who's going to sell cosmetics to other women in a store, what I've seen mostly is that they'll lean to hire, female salespeople in that type of positions. So legally, they cannot discriminate on who they're hiring, but it will play a role. It will be a factor, but in general, it should not play a factor in any type of job hiring, what your gender is, but so what I'm really getting at is based on social interactions, and this links back to her not getting invited to strip clubs. Your gender does play a role. They are just type of activities, that men prefer to do, and they're type of activities that women prefer to do, and which gets links to your gender. It's just simple biological driving forces. But now, if there's like this party being organized by her boss, and that's where specifically aimed for all her co-workers, so her other video game developers, and somehow she wasn't invited, and that was specifically based because she's a woman. Yeah, in that case, that's an almost an open and shut case to sexual discrimination lawsuit. But yeah, there are instances where the gender should that it does play an issue in certain social interactions, social situations, and also in terms of marketing, gender does play an issue. It's this. It's just this current trend that I'm seeing. We should just do away with gender. It shouldn't matter at all. We're just all somehow the same. Gender is a social construct. Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. And we should just market to everybody the same, and just ignore that whole gender issue, that you're in fact born a male or female. Just be gender fluid. Just be whatever you want. That's the general trend. That's what I'm seeing on the internet mostly, and even on the mainstream press. They're really tucking this up. But yeah, overall, this interview wasn't really, they didn't bring anybody else to they didn't interview anybody else to bring counter arguments to these women's issues. I still don't get what these women issues are, with the exceptions of these two things that she kind of brought up in the beginning, and then they moved to online harassment or something, online online issues, which also wasn't really addressed in detail. So yeah, the producers behind this segment, it's always a female developer or female gamer who gets interviewed, who's talking about all the terrible things that are happening in the video game industry, but they never interview somebody who talks about the positive things, or just somebody who can bring a different viewpoint to some of the other things that are being said. I don't know, in this case, for example, couldn't they have found, and they're out there, like for example Jennifer Daw, who is a female developer for the upcoming indie game Seedscape, who I've had minor interactions with via Twitter. I'm not really friends with her at all. And this is a person who they could have brought on, But if I remember correctly, she was interviewed last year around October, November by CBC Radio. That was, I think I said it in the beginning, that's the Canadian broadcasting company, but that interview was never aired, mysteriously enough. Like, who knows why, right? And that interview was about women's issues, and at that time the hashtag Gamergate. And so yeah, this is a person who they could easily have contacted to be interviewed. There are other female developers out there who don't agree with this whole being with what she said, what she brought out specifically is this exclusionary sexism. She actually never brought up any of these overt sexism in the workplace or in the industry, in fact. But all right, so I am gonna just quickly play you another. I'm gonna try to find it very quickly. Just give me a second. All right, and so this was another type of interview in the same style, with the where these vague insinuations were made by female developers. I'm gonna just play it very quickly.
When it comes to Montreal's gaming industry, no doubt about it, it is a man's world. But a growing number of women who work in the field are demanding change. They feel discriminated against and excluded, and they want in. Carla, not her real name, grew up wanting to work in the gaming industry. She loves games, playing them, making them, but she still doesn't feel she fits in. We're seen as...
Look, so you can already see that her face is just her whole figure, face is covered up. You really see that with whistleblowers, you know, and on the news, and it usually in those cases, what you really do see it, that it concerns of very serious issues, you know, when the possibility is like, or criminal informants where they might actually get murdered, if their actual identity gets revealed. But in this case, I'll continue on and let's see if this justifies having her whole face and being covered.
Inferior. It may be inadvertent, unintentional, but she says sexism is rampant in the male-dominated world of gaming.
It's considered completely acceptable in a company-wide email to say this task is a bitch, and that's not really frowned upon in any way.
Donna, we've protected her identity as well, has learned that to get ahead, she has to toe the line, even if that means compromising her principles on gender equality.
You learn that if you want to be promoted, you kind of have to play the pro game. You know, get friends with the right people, get accepted by the right people, and also show that you support the overall vision of the studio. And that might not always be very good in terms of sexism, but as long as you play by the rules, you're fine.
We can do whatever you want.
When it comes to sexist content...
Right. So, in all honesty, was that really necessary that their identities were covered? I guess so if they're still working at the same company. But the reason why I wanted to play you this short clip by CBC was because, if you listen to their main two issues that she brought up, the first one was she was complaining because her colleagues were using the word bitch in context of this project is a bitch or this task is a bitch, not really even describing a person as that. And even then, like, kind of, so what, you know? Is that really the worst thing you can experience, you know? Does it really describe rampant sexism in the video game industry, specifically in the developed by the video game developers side of this industry? And the second was you need to toe the complete line. You need to be part of the bro developers, you know, mingle with the right people. But I'm guessing that everybody has to do that, you know. Network, connect with the right people, you know. This is not just something that's specifically applied to just women or just men. Everybody has to do that, all the developers, I mean. And you have to toe the complete line. I'm guessing, since we just stopped here with the Grand Theft Auto Rockstar game, that if your company decides it wants to market and produce a specific game to a specific audience, and that you as this minor vocal minority in if you're the sole person in that company who is voicing issues about this, then yes, then don't work for that company, just work for a different one. I mean, the game that is being developed does require input from multiple developers, but generally speaking, yes, the senior developers and marketing, I guess, guys kind of influence the direction of how the game is being developed, probably not the marketing guys all that much, but what I'm getting at is so this is again one of those issues where there are these really vague statements being made that I don't really see an issue with this. Why this is such a big deal and that they have to be interviewed. If these are really the most major concerns that needs to be brought up, because really, if I thought there was something like rampant sexism in the developers, in video game developers companies, with concerning female developers, I'm like thinking about that they're being groped, or they were like really thinks sexist statements are being said about them openly to their faces, or even in private conversations, whatever, the typical things that you think about, the typical videos that you see during sensitivity trainings, but not somebody said use the word bitch to describe a specific task or project, or with the other interview that we listened to, that they don't ask her enough and hadn't asked her enough times to join them to a strip club. It's these interviews, they are the typical stuff that you can expect, not really enough research, not asking contrary somebody else with another opinion. It's really the what you could call the narrative-driven journalism, Since I've been archiving this for the past year, footages and radio interviews from the mainstream media, how they cover the video game industry, I'm not really surprised anymore, So I'm gonna end it here, and thank you for watching.